10.6 million, 10.9 million, I beg your pardon. And in 1979 and 1989, respectively, we saw 15.3 million and 21.4 million, respectively. In 1999, the number increased by at least 7 million to make it to 28.7 million. And the last census to have been done in this Kenya was in 2009, where the contested figures came to 38,610,097. You might be asking yourself why I'm saying this are the contested figures. The then, in August 2010, Mr. Wycliffe Oparanya, who's the current Kakamega governor, said that this census was marred by irregularities. Addressing the press on Tuesday, August 2010, he said that a repeat census was going to be done, particularly in the districts affected, which include Mandera, Wajir East, Mandera Central, Mandera East, Mandera West, Turkana Central, Turkana North, and Turkana South. Again, 10 years later, 2019, we are still waiting for the official uncontested results. Breaking it down, the 38,610,097 religiously. The Protestant enjoy a bigger majority of 18,307,466, followed by the Catholic coming to 9,010,684, other Christian 4,559,584, Muslim coming in fourth, 4,798, the Hindu religion enjoying at least 53,393, traditionalist 635,352, other religion at 557,450, no religion at 22,128, and those who do not know their religion came to 61,233. As I said earlier, 10 years later, we still do not know the official figures of the Kenya's population that were gotten in 2009. What will make 2019 different? Yet, we still don't know about the 2009. Basically, a lot of questions, but we're here to look for answers. Assalamu alaikum wa rahmatullahi wa barakatuh. My name is Faisal Kassim and welcome to the live Real Talk. Joining me to get some of the answers to these questions, on the other side of the studio, I have Mr. Shaffi Ali Hussein, who's the Nubian Rights Forum chairman, and Furkan Chacha, who's a senior counsel who has been on this show before, and you loved him. That's why they're here. Gentlemen, assalamu alaikum wa rahmatullah. Assalamu alaikum, Mr. Shaffi.
Assalamu wa
Karibuni
rahmatullah.
sana.
Shukran.
Gentlemen, 10 years later, we still don't know the official figures and 9 census process. Can you still trust the government to go on with this process? Furkan Chacha.
It's quite ironical, as in there are a lot of resources into these exercises, but by the end of the of the day, and then now, as you've put it, it's 10 years down the line, we don't know. It's like all those resources just went west. So now that we're embarking on other census, then you see that's like history now. You see, it's like irrelevant this far. So we are now being to focus on what is impending, what is ahead of us.
Do you think
hoping that things will be done better?
For the government to reinvest the taxpayers' money again, billions of money, bearing in mind that this year we are going digital, billions of taxpayers' money, being a human rights activist, billions of taxpayers' money in this process, yet we still don't know what happened in the past. I mean, we can't tell.
I want everybody to understand that the government we have in the place is the same government we have since 1963. Right now we have President Uhuru Kenyatta and William Ruto.
Yes.
They are not doing anything new rather than what it has been done since the father was in place as the first president.
Yes.
So my take here
Why would you say so though?
I'm saying so because there's so many things and you cannot come out with 2 wrongs to make a right. There's so many things which we still need to be addressed.
Okay.
Like this about the census.
Yes.
Which we are up to this years.
Yes.
We have not get the official result of the past census.
Yes.
And you know the meaning of census is an social economic.
Yes.
Which the central the government executive will use for development of the country.
Yeah.
So they are pushing out the development without the real outcome of the census. People should ask themselves, are they genuine? We've seen development continues, and the real number, because in CDF, the determination of the census is what comes out with which brings out the money which get CDF.
Yes.
In each and every 19 constituencies?
Yes.
Or 290 constituencies. You see, learning the infrastructures coming from the determination of census. So those things, we are seeing those things being done without the outcome of the census. So we are worried. We don't know whether the government will do the right thing now.
Okay.
We are yet to.
We are yet to know.
Yeah.
Mr. Furkan Chacha, we understand that this move by Mr. Wycliffe Oparanya, His Excellency right now, who was the then Minister for Planning in August 2010, was inspired by a group of Muslims who went to the corridors of justice, contesting the numbers, saying that those were not the original figures from the ground. And I believe you are among those people who are consulting with the legal representatives of the Muslim in the court. We never got the judgment from the courts.
You see, consensus has many dynamics, but quite unfortunately, it has been abused for the benefit of those who want to settle at the executive for political mileage. So I think it came as a shocker, as in they didn't expect these other communities will have multiplied. And then you see now that also translates to having a political bargain. So reason as to why it has the outcomes from courts have not, it has not been shown. But you see, now the National Bureau of Statistics is trying to cover some of those loopholes. By, I think in the year 2018, there was an amendment, a proposed amendment, whereby now things will be digital, so that they can try and managerialize or minimize the possibilities of error. But with the corridors of justice, at times labeled corridors of injustice, there are so many other dynamics of which will affect decisions being made, like judges being transferred, and in fact on short notice. But you see now that we are embarking on a new exercise. So whatever had been was being argued initially, it's like it's going to be overtaken by events.
Assuming that maybe we witness a similar situation, the figures that are going to be published might not represent, quote unquote, as the Muslims argued last census in 2009, might not represent the actual figures on the ground. What steps have you taken in place, or rather what steps have you taken this time before the August 24th, the night of August 24th, when this process is expected to happen, to try and prevent that from happening again?
I think one of the major leaps is that now the process is going digital. And part of the major amendments that were being proposed in the Statistics Act of 2006 is to give powers to the executive or to the board, whoever is in charge, to be able, if there is proof that the figures have been tampered with in a way, they will have powers after consultation to correct those figures. But you see, this is the position that we found ourselves last time. And there was a quagmire, maybe because of lack of legislation, for them to be able to adjust the figures. Just like our politics, whereby the body that is charged with the managing politics, you see, being given those powers to alter figures.
Elections, you mean?
Yeah, elections. You see, it's a very emotive issue. And as I've already put it, that elections and census, you see, it's like they're twins. They go hand in hand.
Exactly, and that's where I wanted to bring in Mr. Shaffi Ali Hussein. The move to make election transmission results fully digital was highly contested by a number of leaders in the recent 2017 election, saying that we don't have enough infrastructure to fully depend on digital mechanisms to transmit the results. Again, do you think in this very short span of time, 2 years down the line, we have the capacity to hold the census digitally?
What we had from the Kenya National Bureau of Statistics,
yes,
prior to the census right now, that means 1 year back, they were doing something like, is it piloting?
Yes.
To make sure that they've prepared themselves for the big census, which comes on 24th and the night of 25th.
Yes.
So what they're telling us this time out it is unique because it will be digital and paperless.
Yes.
So to my understanding, digital and paperless, we will be seeing enumerators coming to our homes with the gadgets,
yes,
small
tablets.
gadgets like this one you hold.
Yeah.
So I think let us wait to me, I have a problem with my government because my government is not talking exactly what it preaches. So this is the problem we have with the government.
Fair enough. Now, moving on, taking it a step further. So I think the consensus room is that we just give it time and see what happens. Mr. Shaffi, again, back to you. Coming from the Nubian community and then being the chairman of Nubian Rights Forum. Again, more than 60 years later, since Kenya gained independence, and the Nubian community, who have been part and parcel of the Kenyan history, are yet to be recognized as a tribe in Kenya. What's your take on that?
My take on that is, we have been highlighted the government on the discrimination, which has been done to especially the minority groups such as Nubians.
Yes.
And up to this moment, you can remember this is it Huduma bill coming?
Yes.
We have a NIMS case, which I am one of the petitioners.
Okay.
For only the reason I went to court is because of discrimination. So my take is, unless the government settled the issue of discrimination of the minorities, especially Nubians who are living in the city, capital city of Kenya.
Yeah.
We will start talk as real Kenyans. And in terms of people like Nubians, when we are talking of, let's say, something like allocation of revenue in counties, we are in Kibra constituency right now. Nubian are not getting that because they have been already outnumbered with other tribes.
So doesn't that make you a minority in this country?
Marginalized and minorities. And minority. All two comes together. So this is the reason why we are asking government to address this issue of discrimination in Article 27, so that they can put all Kenyans on a level ground for the purpose of what do you call share of development,
the national resources.
Exactly.
Fair enough. What have you done despite moving to the corridors of justice and challenging the Huduma bill and challenging the National Integrated Information Management System to be recognized as a tribe in Kenya and not be regarded as others as it has been in the previous?
Another case in court right now for the state to recognize Nubians as any other Kenyan. We have that case again with my friend, a very young lawyer from the Nubian community. And I personally, with this case, when the case went to court, after some times, we went with Honorable Otiende Amolo and Esther Pasaris. We met, and the Stateless and Citizenship Caucus, we went and met Matiangi. And I think Matiangi agreed with the Nubian issue. And Honorable Matiangi assured me before Honorable Esther Pasaris that he will deal with the Nubian issue up to the end of August. Nubian will be getting almost everything and Nubians will be equal to any other Kenyan.
That includes being recognized as a tribe in this nation.
Yep.
Thank you so much. And we're getting on that, and that's how we take a break on this first segment of the Live Real Talk. We are just getting started. Remember, you can be part of this conversation at Horizon TV Kenya on Twitter, at Horizon TV Kenya on Instagram, and Horizon TV Kenya on Facebook. We're also streaming live on both Facebook and YouTube. Let us hear your comments because we are just getting started. So let's pay our bills. I'll be back in a moment.
Horizon TV, the beacon for the nation.
Am I allowed as a woman to ask for divorce in a marriage that I feel it's not working? Yes, you're allowed to ask for divorce so long as that divorce you're asking is in accordance to the teachings of Islam. I always caution ladies, women, married women, not just to jump for divorce and ask for divorce maybe because the man used to have money, he could provide, now he's not able to provide, or because of any materialistic issues. So yes, that is a right you have as long as it is according to the teachings of the Quran and the Sunnah of the Prophet sallallahu alaihi wasallam. Is there any minimum or maximum amount of dowry a woman should ask? No. The answer is no. There's no minimum or maximum dowry she can ask. But the Prophet ﷺ advised women to keep it on the minimum. The easier, the simpler, the better. But there's no harm for her to ask any amount she wants. And that is her right. A dowry is known as a token of love. So it is given to her. It's not for family. It's not for the father. It's not for the wali. It's not for anybody to decide for her. She decides and it's her right. Muslim men and women sit separately in social gatherings. Now, Muslim men and women sit separately in social gatherings to minimize fitna. And the religion of Islam does not allow free mixing, in social gatherings. And to minimize fitna and, of course, to respect the woman's hijab, it is important that they sit separately.
With kids, we learn Quran, we learn Quran, we learn Quran, we learn Quran, we learn Hadith, we learn Hadith, we learn Hadith, we learn Hadith, we learn the duas, we learn the duas, we learn the duas, we learn the duas, we love our prophet, we love our prophet. We love our prophet, we love our prophet. Abu Najma with kids. Abu Najma with kids. We learn Quran, we learn Quran, we learn Quran, we learn Quran, we learn Hadith.
Angalia Uislamu ulipoanza ulianzaje? Ulianza kwa stidraji, ulianza kwa polepole. Wewe Adam alayhi salam, si umeonyeshwa kwamba ni bora kuliko malaika? Hawa malaika wamekusujudia wewe. Kwa hivyo hata ukiwa malakaini ni jambo kubwa kwa hakika, na wao wamekusujudia wewe. Mwenyezi Mungu Subhanahu wa Ta'ala anasema, wala talbisul haqqa, musichanganye haki au kweli bilbatili na uongo. Katika tembo dhambi nyingi na faida kidogo. Ukiwa wewe unasoma Qur'ani, ni uzuri utizame katika msahafu, ufikirie yale unayoyasoma. Qur'ani kitabu changu, Qur'ani mwongozo wangu, Qur'ani
Qur'ani mwombezi wangu, Qur'ani pumbao langu, Qur'ani kitabu changu, Qur'ani mwongozo wangu, Qur'ani mwombezi wangu.
On the next episode,
I should first love myself. Because if I'm going to be a journalist, I think the first person that should be inspired, like the person that you watched the first, to like that inspired you, is myself. Pepo ya dunia, pepo ya dunia, pepo ya dunia ni mama.
Katibu katika Wizara ya Usalama wa Ndani, Dr. Karanja Kibicho, amesema kuwa shughuli hiyo inatarajiwa kuanza katika kipindi cha wiki 2 zijazo.
Mashaallah.
you're watching Horizon TV, the beacon.
Assalamu alaikum wa rahmatullah. Welcome back to the live talk show. Remember, you can join the conversation. We are streaming live on YouTube and Twitter. And don't you forget, you can tweet us as well at Horizon TV Kenya, on Facebook, Horizon TV Kenya, and Instagram as well at Horizon TV Kenya. We are talking about Census 2019. And just before the break, with the Nubian community, who are yet to be recognized as a community, as opposed to others, as it has always been in the previous population research process known as the Census. Senior Counsel, maybe you have something to add on that.
You see, the Nubian issue, when you talk about minorities,
yes,
it's very unique. Mm-hmm. You see, the rest of the minorities have been recognized as citizens of this country. You see, when you are in that category of minorities and at the same time you've not been categorized, if the minorities don't get there, you can imagine the type of suffering that the Nubians have been forced into. And then there is also, you see, people are very much short-sighted. Mm-hmm. You see, when you refer to the Nubian community, you don't limit yourself to Kibera.
Yes.
For those who have an opportunity to travel to Rift Valley, we have huge communities of Benin and so many other places. Yeah. And then when you also go to South Nyanza, mm-hmm, you'll also get a big constituent of the Nubian communities. So, and then even if you go, you look at it from an historic perspective, you see the presence of the Nubians in this part of the world predates most of the other communities who have been granted citizenship just the other day. So you don't really understand what is the criterion that is being used. Right, like right now that the census is ongoing. Yeah. And then you see the census will have to identify whether you are a Kenyan or you are a non-Kenyan. Yes. So there is a high possibility that many Nubians might be counted as non-Kenyans because they lack the basic documents.
But in the previous census, they have been regarded as others, you know, after listing the then 42 tribes. But again, recently, within this span of 10 years, we've seen 2 tribes to have been added in the official list of tribes in this nation. We've seen the Makondes coming all the way from the coastal side of Kenya, and the Asian community, who have both been recognized as tribes in this nation. So the question is, what is it that they did differently from the Nubian community for them to be recognized? And I'm sure, I don't know, maybe did you start this process of fighting for your right to be recognized earlier than them? What really happened? What went wrong where?
I think the Nubian were the first community to start fight for recognition. Mm-hmm. But I know the criteria used, because I remember the Makonde, mm-hmm, the Indians came, mm-hmm, and today I think you have not gone through the Shona, mm-hmm, who are living with our brothers Kikuyus here at Kiambu. Okay. In the last 1 or 2 weeks, they have been issued with birth certificate. So they are also in a panel of recognition. And the Nubian question is still to be addressed. Okay. So it's up to the government to tell the people the criteria they are using. But first and foremost, we will not relent.
Maybe just to add as Pana, you say that you met, maybe the final issue, TB, and then we continue with the rest of the discussion. You mentioned that you met Honorable Matiang'i, yep, Cabinet Secretary for Interior Security. You met him and he gave you his word that he's going to address the Nubian issue by the end of August. Exactly. And the census is set for the 24th of August. Yep. So does that mean that you're still going to be recognized as others in this census and maybe going to be recognized as an official tribe until the next election? Or that any communication coming from his office so far?
Not yet, and that is yet to come from his office. But to me, what I'll say, I will not relent. I'll fight for the right of my people until when God will take me to. Because I'm planning something else right now. I'm taking the signatures and I'm doing a petition to Parliament now to start push.
Wow. Yeah. Lovely. All the best with that. Maybe Senior Counsel, something to add as we closed?
You see, the moment you're put in the category of ETC, you see that typically means others.
Yes.
You see, even when it comes to planning, you see, you can't be seen anywhere on the table.
Yeah.
So it has a very huge ramification, and my brother here needs to get the necessary support from the community to make sure that this point sails through.
Lastly, any legal moves maybe that he can take? He's already mentioned that he's walked to the corridors of justice, he's seen the Honorable C.S. Matiang'i, and he's doing a petition right now to the Parliament, to the Legislative Assembly. Any other move maybe you can advise?
He has brought me up to speed. There are matters in court, they are pending, and you see, with the new dispensation, with the new constitution that you have, it's quite promising. So it's just a matter of consistency, and I'm sure we'll be getting home soon.
Perfectly fine. Thank you so much, Council, on that. And maybe just at this point is when I'd like to convey the apologies of Abdi, Sheikh Abdullahi Abdi, who's National Muslim Leaders Forum Chairman, who was supposed to join us tonight, but again, he could not make it. And of course, we have tried to reach out to the Kenyan National Bureau of Statistics for a very long time for them to send a representative for this show. But we got contacts and we still made follow-up and follow-up on follow-up, only to fall on deaf ears. A lot of questions that were meant for them, but again, they could not make it on the show without any communication. Nonetheless, we still would like to have them on the set to ask some of those questions. Anyway, coming from a layman's perspective, Council, maybe you can advise us, what are some of the advantages that comes with census for the government to get the data of the population? What do you think are the advantages?
You see, if maybe, as you've put it, from a layman's point of view, you see, we can just like reflect on a family. You see, when there is a head of the house or the breadwinner of the house, you see, the planning on the current and the future will all depend with maybe how many are there in the household, and maybe the income, if the income is sort of limited, you see, now you'll be thinking of how to increase on the income base so that you could of your immediate family in the present and the future. So if now you expand that vision to encompass the whole state, the way is that, you see, for purposes of planning, it's important for the state to know how many citizens do we have, or how many people are dependent on the basic services from the state. It's very critical.
Thanks so much for bringing us up to speed. Again, if that's the case, I guess the numbers from the census should determine revenue allocation, development agendas, health provision, talk of housing provision, space allocation, and what have you. We are having legislatures coming from the president's backyard accusing the president of neglecting his area when it comes to matters development. So development is still a quest, something that we are yet to see the fruits. Mr. Shaffi, maybe you have a word to put in that.
Okay, in terms of development, development is a right of the people. And what our politicians are doing, and especially the executive, they are giving out the development as a, can I call it a friendly token? If you are leaning to the president, you are leaning to the deputy president, is when you'll be given a development money. So, and that is not the case. All those things have been already addressed by the Constitution. That is the reason why we have a devolved government. Money to be allocated to county government so that county government can undertake the development agenda. And what we are seeing right now, we are seeing a tug of war between the National Assembly and the Senate.
Yes.
On the money needed to be allocated on the county government.
Yes.
But whatever we are seeing, the old system and tactics of the executive is not to address the real issue of development.
Maybe to play the devil's advocate in this case, as I bring you in, Council, the government has been releasing money, particularly the executive, has been releasing money to their counties without even bargaining. Right now, the president is complaining that his, his reservoir is running dry. That's why he cannot allocate the funds to the counties as expected. But nonetheless, since devolution started, he has been releasing the money. And there is very little to account for the money that he has been releasing. Just to play the devil's advocate. Council.
You see, that argument is self-defeatist. You see, the president can't be complaining. You see, it's like we are in an era whereby we have budgets which are always read periodically, that we intend to spend this much.
Yes.
And then you see those budgets are guided by certain principles and dynamics.
Yes.
So even before the money is released, it ought to have been pre-planned, as in pre-focused.
Yes.
So I think it's just rhetorics, and you see, having failed to curb corruption, so the only escape will be just looking, it's now turning into a blame game, that so-and-so has not done this and that. So everybody needs to be account for every cent. You see, it's not just about, you see, this census business is not just about this. It also gives a hint on also collection of resources. Because if you have this number of population, and then you see, while they're picking the census, they'll also be picking certain information, as in if you're productive or you're not productive, as in how much is your income and your sources. And in a way, it will give the government an idea of how much they ought to be raising, so that the same can also be redistributed. So this issue of the counties not accounting, you see, we have laws, and everybody's supposed to be accounting for whatever is given to them. Maybe they've not tasked the county government so much so that they can also generate their own on the executive.
Again, we're having the counties which have been given money ever since devolution started. But again, every day, what comes on the dailies, what comes on the mainstream media and social media is a corruption case after a corruption case. A corruption case after a corruption case. And we are seeing no conviction thus far. Just prosecution and prosecution and prosecution. It's something like a vicious cycle. We're not seeing an end to this. Again, Mr. Shaffi, I'd bring you in. Still trying to be the devil's advocate of this case. Do you think it's time to relook and reevaluate the county governments, which are supposed to be the representative of the common Wanjiku down there?
Of course, yes. The issue of corruption is a major challenge to our nation. And what we are seeing is exactly what you are asking us here. Right now, we are seeing my friend Babayao in court. But the problem is, what is the end game? Will we see Babayao in prison? That is a question I think each and every focused Kenyan are asking themselves. So the problem here is corruption. And the corruption is not about the counties alone. Corruption starts right from the top, from the executive to down where the chiefs and the DOs are.
Yeah.
So I think, to be honest, my president and deputy president need to do something. Because I have seen my brother, whom I'm respecting most, the DPP, Nordin. I have seen Kinoti, who is my personal friend. But the major problem with corruption cases, By then, it was prosecution. When the matter been taken to court, and the prosecution are there to represent the government, at the end of the day, they will get compromised. For example, Babayao is in a case of, is it 53 billion? 58 billion.
Million.
Million. When Babayao give a token of 10 to 20 million, then that case will go like that. So we
of course, that is just assumption.
Exactly.
That's what we just assume.
We want to see if there's anything new. At least to promise Kenyans that we call it our police force and the court, we are also asking the court to do something new. Because what we are seeing right now, the court are also in a handshake. So we are here to ask ourselves, will Kenyans get
see
justice?
Conviction
because
at the end of the day?
I think I have seen justice in Kenya since the time of Mutunga. But this time of Maraga is in handshake, so to speak. So it is a cry for Kenyans. We want to see justice, a will of justice rolled.
What do you mean by he is in the handshake?
Of course, he's
just to break it down.
In a handshake. Number one, I'll give you a case of hijab. You remember the case of hijab?
Yes.
The case of hijab, the judgment which has been given by that court is not a constitutional judgment. It is a political judgment. You see, we've seen a case of my brother who is a governor, whom has been accused of, he did not have a genuine certificate? University.
The Wajir governor.
Exactly. And the court found him that he has not that certificate, but he was acting like somebody, a governor. So what are those? What are those? So that is the reason why I'm telling you, Honorable Maraga is in handshake.
The judicial system is compromised.
Exactly.
My goodness. Yes. My producer here right now and my director for tonight, Issa Bakarim Tama, is really insisting that we have to go and pay our bills again. But again, it's just getting hot inside here. When I'm told that the judicial system is within the handshake, meaning quote unquote compromise, as Mr. Shaffi Ali Hussein, an activist from the Nubian Rights Forum, says, we are yet to get more. Remember, join us on Twitter and Instagram and Facebook. We would love to hear from you. Join in the conversation. Let's talk about this. And don't worry, because we're going to be back after this very short break.
Horizon TV, the beacon for the nation.
Assalamu alaikum warahmatullahi wabarakatuh. We are now at Arena 1. And over here we have player of the day.
To beat Hamza's team.
He's a diver.
I chose Surat al-Mutaffifin. I don't know the names, but Nabi Isa said, I am a slave of Allah. Is it Prophet Luqman?
1 point for this team.
Welcome to Active Sunday.
Things which will happen at the last day, which is very shocking.
That's not fair because I wasn't here.
It's a happy day. Oh, what a happy day it is for Active Sunday.
You're watching Horizon TV, the beacon for the nation.
Yes, we are looking at least 44 minutes past 8 p.m. and we are on the third and unfortunately the last segment of the live real talk. We are talking about Census 2019. We've looked at Census and we've looked at what happened in the previous Census process. The main reason of the Census, as we have been enlightened here by our council on this, is to help the government plan for its citizens. And we are talking about development. Yes, the government have been doing this before this is not the first time, but still the development agenda is still something that many Kenyans are yet to get a lot of answers on this issue. Now, we were talking about development, and we say that it's quite selective from the consensus I'm getting in the room, that it's quite selective. The government are not quite sincere when they're allocating funds and resources, and we spoke of the ongoing tussle between the National Assembly and the Senate regarding the revenue allocation, what amount of money should be disbursed to the county government. Now, let's look at this economically. Again, as latest as yesterday, we saw another company planning to retrench at least 200 of its employees. So that means 200 families are going to suffer. 200 families are going to suffer, among the many that has been happening. On the other hand, the government is saying that economy has been growing at least by 6%. But again, it's not being reflected in the company. I mean, Council, maybe you can help us understand and digest this further. How do we see retrenchment on one hand, and on the other hand, we are told that the economy is growing by 6%?
I think it's high time we audit the style of, or the nature of our policy. It's high time we do an audit, very sincere soul searching. You see, like the way you've put the concern as in those who voted for the government, they're the ones who are complaining that they've been neglected, and that now development is going to the size that opposed the current leadership. Yeah. In the first place, you see, these people are complaining because, you see, development should not be based on loyalties. You see, development should be based on the need and strategic plans that the government has for its people fairly, whether they voted for them or they didn't vote for them. So
equal or equitable? I think that's very, it's a very important question to ask. Is it equal or equitable?
You see, it's supposed to, like, regardless of the affiliations. You see, if it's matter to do with health, housing and stuff, so, and we know the population dynamics, then the government should be able to plan. You see, now there is also a tussle because there are vested interest. You see, the central government has its own agendas that they will wish to achieve at a certain point in time, which if they were to trickle money down to the counties, it's going to affect the agenda.
True.
You see, these are some of the dynamics, these are some of the challenges. And then, you see, about the style of whereby, you see, we get so many promises. You see, like, there were talks of so many stadiums. By now, we were supposed, like, every village was supposed to have a stadium.
Yes.
So, you see, and then you see, we've become sort of used to these lies. You see, that's the saddest part of it. Because another election will come in, and then we'll be told the same story, and then we'll come with all sorts of songs in support of those stories. And then in the 11th hour, we are complaining that there are no jobs, people are being retrenched. You see, business is good for those who are in government and dealing with government. But when it comes to the majority, the rest of the citizens, the reality is stuck naked in our eyes, as in there is nothing. Life has become so hard to be able to make ends meet.
Wow.
So it's like the political class, when they speak of the economy growing, you see, it's like they're speaking in a foreign language that the citizens can't understand. You see, it's quite unfortunate. And then you see even corruption is rife at that level. So I think it's that those corruption benefits that make them feel that the economy is growing, while the citizens are saying nothing.
My goodness, Mr. Shaffi. Let's look matters housing before we look into matters health, because we're looking at the government engaging in this exercise for our benefit, to help us and to help them plan for us, the citizens, the taxpayers. When Honorable Tibai Juka was heading one of the United Nations functions, he wanted to bring the slum upgrading project in Kibra. The indigenous of Kibra, who are the Nubians, your community, contested passionately. Again, it's coming. The government under the it's coming with this current leadership under the Big Four agenda. They want to have proper housing. And they've started Boma Yangu initiative, which Kenyans have mixed reactions about it, of course, from the social media. Some of them claiming that this is just but another con artistry to con Kenyans because of the not so good economy. What is your take on that? And after getting the title deed in 2017, now do you think it's time that you're ready for the slum upgrade, proper housing in your area?
Okay, my take is anything to do with housing and slum upgrading. It can be good to any other Kenyan, but not Nubian. Our 288 right now.
My goodness.
We are there to plan for ourselves.
It can be good to go to any Kenya apart from Nubians. Why?
Exactly. Why? That one, it is for us to plan for ourselves.
Okay.
And to tell government, here is our blueprint.
Yes.
We just need your assistance from the county government and the National Land Commission.
Okay.
But we can walk out of Kenya
to
go and look for donors elsewhere to come and develop our area. And in talking of the slum upgrading...
So you only just need government's approval. You don't need their support.
Only that. We can go get money from outside Kenya so that the government can also get revenue from our development agenda.
Wow.
Talking of slum upgrading during the time of Tibaijuka, it came to, I think, high rise.
Yes.
It started with high rise. And if you go there, you will not see any Nubian there. No single Nubian have a house there.
You protested. You walked from the big mosque in Kibra, that was Makina, that's where you converged.
Exactly. Picketing.
The government offices.
Picketing is my right.
Perfectly fine.
And I think when we are doing that demonstration, we knew anything to do with development must have a public participation. That is a constitutional requirement. It's coming in style. Throwing aside that public participation, come do whatever they are doing, looking for the 10% pockets.
But Mr. Shaffi, you're then member of parliament, who's the former prime minister, right Honorable Raila Amolo Odinga. I think he was included in that process.
Exactly. And the outcome of the process now indicates the high rise phase 1 and the latest indicates that the Honorable Prime Minister Raila Odinga's hand is in it because 3/4 of Luos are the one who got those houses. Anybody to come with me, to accompany me to go down there, we start count 1, 2, 3 down there.
Are you trying to allude that he was fighting for the interests of his tribesmen and not the general Kibra community?
He was fighting for his tribesmen and his supporters, ODM supporters. And those are the people who are right now acquiring those houses. No single Nubian inside there. And remember, my brother,
yes,
the Nubian land was not about the 288. It was 4,197 acres. All this high rise to Wilson Airport, to Bomas of Kenya, cut across to Karen, come by Kenya Science, back to Mortuary, City Mortuary. All these were Nubians' ancestral land.
4,197 acres in the capital.
Exactly.
And you were given 288.
Yep.
That you're very thankful for.
But we still push for compensation. So addressing the issue of housing,
yes,
the way government want to address through slum upgrading,
yes,
I don't think it will answer the real need of the poor people down there.
Is that you as Shaffi Ali and Nubian speaking, you as Shaffi Ali, the chairman of NRF speaking, or you are speaking on behalf of the Nubian community that you don't need slum upgrading and housing projects in Kibra?
I am speaking on behalf of my people.
On behalf of the Nubians?
Exactly.
Perfectly fine.
And I think by saying that,
yes,
you've walked throughout Nairobi. You've seen the city stadium.
Yes.
Opposite this, how do you call this, Eastland areas. Those houses which has been put there long time ago, how do you call them now? Are they not worse than the slums? So slum upgrading,
yes,
it has a lot of challenges which needs to be answered first.
Okay.
Yeah.
Thank you. Well, maybe just to pick your mind, Council, on Boma Yangu initiative, something that the government is yearning to leave a legacy, because they're focusing on the big four agenda, one of them being proper housing facilities for its citizens, and they've started the Boma Yangu initiative. What's your take on that?
You see, when you get to hear people who voted in this government complaining the loudest, so what of those who've been skeptic and they voted against the government?
Against the government of the day, huh?
You see, we've not seen people who are sincere. You see, we lack sincere leadership.
Yes.
And I think that is devoid of being fearful that they're going to be held accountable, if not in this world, in the hereafter.
Okay.
You see, the moment people have secured their respective political positions,
yes,
then it really doesn't matter anymore. So, you see, we see some few gains, but you see, whatever is not being done right overshadows the small gains. So if we can have a leadership that is loyal to its citizens, not to their own selfish interest, then to believe them. You see, there is so much that has not been done right. So that's why Kenyans are entitled to be skeptic. Whether is this another gimmick to try and, you see, right now there is no milk coming out from the citizens. So very soon we'll be seeing blood being milked out of the citizens.
By hook or crook, you have to get something.
Yeah, by hook or crook, the government wants to stay afloat. You see, but the citizens are not seeing the benefits of the revenue that is being paid.
Wow.
Loyal, all of a sudden decide not to be loyal anymore, then we won't have a country.
Which begs the question of corruption, that the government is in the executive, legislature, not mentioning the judiciary, all of them talking about corruption. Topic for another day. That we're going to talk about. Last but not least, let's look at the matters healthcare. It is still a big question to be addressed in this nation, particularly the rising cases of cancer disease. It's alarming. It's alarming, not mentioning depression, which according to World Health Organization is going to be the leading killer disease by the year 2040. I mean, do you think the government has the necessary facilities and infrastructure to cater for this health that we're looking at, Mr. Shaffi?
The answer comes straight away from the burial of the late Laboso, when President stood up and speaks. They are going to bring, is it 3? Something of that sort. So the President is talking of 3 machines in a population of more than 40 million. Is my President serious? I want to say that anytime member of the executive and my honorable parliamentarian sick, they go to JKIA, board a plane, and go to hospital outside the country, America, in Africa, South Africa. So are those respected leaders serious with their citizens, the poor citizens down here? Let me give you an example of a hospital from the governor who was in court last 2 days. Waiguru and Waiguru. You all remember the hospital closed. And the reason why: bad environment, bad working, you see?
Not so good working conditions.
Exactly. And this is the problem which we will see with most of our health centers. Even go to Mbagathi right now. This is the problem. You see? So I don't think the government is serious, because they knew very well. No single day Honorable Uhuru Kenyatta's daughter or granddaughter will go to Mbagathi Health Hospital. It is Shaffi and Faisal's kids. So, but what we are telling them this money, we are taxpayers. And it's our money. So it is high time we are telling them to be serious, and especially to these matters of cancer.
They're not asking.
It is.
We are demanding.
Exactly, it is our right. And I want to tell you that that is in Article 43 of the Constitution of Kenya. You see? But if you read that article so nicely, and come to the hospital and see those health centers here, those are two different things.
Very good on paper, but not so good practically.
Exactly.
Senior Counsel, maybe if you're winding up, you can just address the same concern, talking about matters healthcare.
You see, when you have, I'll just use an example. Okay, it might be out of line, but when you overfeed a dog that is intended to provide you security, you see, you guarantee that you get the security. And then that's the position that the executive has placed its citizen. Keep them starved so that they worship you as their lords. You see, the citizens of this country, they've never mattered. And they don't really matter until when it comes to election or when it is to the vested interest of the elite. You see, if right now we were to be serious and we do we take the statistics of the ordinary citizens who've been succumbing to cancer, we'll be so shocked of the figures. But the moment an elite in society becomes victim of this particular challenge, it's like we've just discovered that we have this problem. But these problems are everywhere, and citizens are dying everywhere because they can't afford the specialized treatments outside the country.
Okay.
So that's why I'm saying that the citizens have never mattered. You see, in the Constitution that we, the people, you see, it's just a phrase, and then the people have not been made to understand and appreciate that they are everything before the leadership. In fact, rhetorically, they're the ones who employ these people into power. But the moment these people occupy these seats, then they become their bosses. Then, in as long as we don't have this understanding, then I think the Kenyans are entitled to continue suffering, because it's like a disaster that we've invited to our own selves.
Okay, so thanks so much. Mr. Shaffi, I mean, you mentioned in the first segment, this is because it's coming from George. I'm being informed George from Kitui made a call earlier on, but again, because we were having a discussion, so you could not be connected through to our studios, George from Kitui asked a very nice question, saying, why must the government again invest in this census process, yet they've already put billions of money into Huduma Number Initiative that they have collected quite a number of people's information. Why can't they just integrate as opposed to, again, engaging in a whole census process?
I think I concur with my brother here toward his question.
But again, you're Huduma Number in the first place.
Yes, I'm against Huduma Number with reason. Okay. I told the government, first of all, to address the discrimination aspects on the minorities so that we can migrate together to Huduma, you see? And whatever government are doing with the Huduma Number, I think is one shop for all of those documents to be put together. And it's still the same thing today. The government will be working out on the 24th and 25th, counting the people. So I think we will separate those two things.
Okay.
Counting the people is something else.
Yes.
Because it is a national census, national and housing census, because they will also count the houses for planning, for development. And then Huduma is all your documents being put together.
Integrated.
Exactly.
But again, still, you can just extract the number of people that you've counted, because that's the population you're looking at, and then maybe you can just do something shallow and count the number of houses.
Of course, we know what our government are doing.
Yeah.
They are just going for anything which is which they will read to the people and say, this thing will cost government this much billions, so that they can get their percentage as easy as. Okay. They don't care if they do a sham job. It is up to you, citizens. Simple, because as my brother said here, citizens of the Republic of Kenya have to understand.
Yes.
The people comes first, and whoever, executive, MPs, and whoever becomes after you. So if you understand chapter 1 of the Constitution of Kenya, of the Constitution of Kenya, then we will start address those things the way Sudanese addressed it.
Revolution.
Exactly.
Assalamu alaikum. Thank you so much, Senior Counsel.
It's a pleasure.
Unfortunately, that is how we come to the end of our show this evening. We were talking about census, a process that the government engages in every 10 years. As we started by saying, we still don't know the exact figures as of 2009. But again, 2019, 24th of August is when the process is going to happen. Again, we are optimistic that this time round will come out quite early and the government can roll out a plan and, of course, ensure public participation in the development agenda, because some people don't need housing, just as it has been clearly stated. It is good for everyone, apart from some people. They can get their own resources. So it's important for the government to at least include the citizens, public participation, because at the end of the day, it is our right. I have been your host, Faisal Kassim, and this has been Live Real Talk. Let's meet next week, same place, same time, with a different topic. Up to now, we say, Assalamu alaikum wa rahmatullahi wa barakatuh.
You're watching Horizon TV, the beacon for the nation.